I'm never quite sure how to start these, but here we go. Hey everyone! If you're here, that likely means you're starting your sourdough journey, and I am so excited for you. I love sourdough. I love making it. I love all the things about it. It's such a great, soothing, mindful practice, and I hope you love it too. So today's focus is going to be how to rehydrate a dehydrated starter. You can use this process with any dehydrated starter that you've gotten, or I have mine available for purchase. I'll put the link in the description. If you do get yours from me, it'll look like this. It comes with this handy instruction sheet. It's a little lengthy. It's a lot of steps. Seems intimidating, but truly it's not that bad. So let's get that out of the way first. Sourdough can be very intimidating, myself included. I was very intimidated when I started. There's just so many terms and variables, and it's just a lot. So then when people are talking and throwing these things at you, it's kind of like, what? But honestly, I'm gonna tell you a secret. It's really not that serious. It's not. Once you kind of get it down and you get a feel for your times and how it works into your schedule, it's great, and it's meant to be relaxing. So just remember, if you ever feel a little overwhelmed, intimidated, just take a deep breath, relax. It'll be okay. It's gonna be great. But with that in mind, I'm gonna go through each day. I have all my different jars here. I've been doing it for the last 5 days, so I have all of them up to day 5. I'm gonna go over some of issues that you might run into. Just know that you can always email me or comment or whatever, ask any questions. I love chatting about sourdough, and I'd love to help you if I can. I'm not an expert. This is just my experience and what works for me. But that's what I really love about sourdough, is you kind of get your own groove with things. So yes, take information from everyone. I like getting information from multiple sources, which I will link some of my favorites down below as well. But so many people have such great insight, but at the end of the day, you want to do what works best for you in your environment, in your time schedule, and you'll kind of find your groove. But just know, part of the process is experimenting to find what you like and how you like to do it. You just need to go through the process of experimenting. So don't be scared to start. Remember, deep breaths. So today's video, you have your dehydrated starter. So we're going to talk about how you'll go from this to being able to make this. And this loaf, I'm going to give you some, oh, hold on, let me get you close. Delicious, right? This loaf, well, I cooked it this morning, but I started it last night on day 4 of this process. So I'll go over what that will look like. Usually it's not till day 5 that you'll be baking, but the starter is very happy, very active. You may just be baking a loaf in 4 days. So this one again was this 4 days ago, 5 days ago? Hold on. Anyway, math, sorry. A few days ago, this came from this. Let's talk about how we do it. So if you get mine, you'll have your instruction sheet. This, you just need a jar that you can seal. I love these straight edge, wide mouth mason jars. These are just leak-proof lids. You don't need these. These are by Ball. I like them because they're easier to clean than the 2-part lids I have found. I can throw them in the dishwasher. I just like them for ease. Not necessary. And you can use any jar that you can seal, because the first 4 days, and if you ever put it in the fridge, you're gonna want to seal it tightly. So I end up in a large jar, so you can just start in a large jar. That's generally what I do. I just didn't have enough of these to do all 5 days. So we started in a smaller jar because you don't need that much space for the first couple days. You can do it all in one jar, starting with the big one. Okay, it's already pre-measured. If you're starting with your own, you want about 2 tablespoons. That's roughly the measurement we're going with. So you'll just go ahead and empty that in your jar. And then we're going to add to this 3 tablespoons of water. You want to use filtered spring water, or if you have clean well water, that works great too. The only thing is that like tap water with chlorine, it hates it. Hates it. So just use one of those options, but we're going to add 3 tablespoons. This is just filtered water that I refill this jar because it's easier for me, my little hands, to pour it in smaller amounts. So we've got our 3 tablespoons of water. You're just going to mix it up really, really well. And then after you have mixed it well, you're going to let it sit for 10 minutes. And the purpose of that is just to let all that powder really soak up that water before you feed it. Okay, so we'll go ahead and let that sit for 10 minutes. All right, now it's been 10 minutes, so we're going to feed it. And we're going to use 2 tablespoons of flour. And then mix well. What you want is kind of like pancake batter, where it's not runny but thin. And you want to try and get out all the lumps, but it doesn't have to be completely lumpless. Lumpless? Is that a word? It doesn't have to be completely lacking lumps. Just mix that up really well until you have your thin pancake batter. I like to scrape down my sides. That's it. Day 1 complete. See, it's not so crazy. Okay, so now you want this in a warm spot, not hot. You can freeze your sourdough. The only thing that's going to kill it is heat. So warm will help it rise and grow faster, but you don't want it hot. So we're going to keep this in a warm-ish place and let it sit for 18 to 24 hours, and then we'll be on day 2. So here we have day 2, which is wild. If you can see, this is day 1, day 2. Look how much it rose. It's wild. It's been about 18 hours. You could let it go longer and let it fall, but as we mix it, it's gonna release all those bubbles. But that's what I was talking about, that this guy's real active, and that's how we got from day 1 to day 5 being bred already. Like, she's vivacious, we'll say. Let me show you these bubbles. Look at that. She's already, 18 hours from powder, and she's alive. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. Okay, just had to show you that because she's wild. She's doing great. So I'm very proud of my little Mabel. Here we are, day 2. I'm gonna use the same, it's dirty, but no, it's not. If you saw this dirty spatula, no you didn't. It's just flour and water anyway. All right, so we're just gonna give that a little mix. And then day 2 and 3 are very similar, so it's nothing crazy. All we're gonna do is feed the sourdough. 2 tablespoons flour and 1.5 to 2 tablespoons water. The water will vary because it kind of depends on your environment. It's very dry where I live. I'm in the desert of deserts. So I generally have to use 2 tablespoons, but if yours is a little runny, you'll want to cut back to about 1.5 tablespoons. Just kind of gauge it again to get to that slightly runny pancake batter consistency. So 1 and 2. And now our water. And you can always start with 1 tablespoon, mix it, and then slowly add in, because it's easier to go that way than to just immediately add too much water. So I'll do 1.5, but I found that I generally have to do 2. All right, so we are just a touch thick. I'm gonna add not quite 1/2 tablespoon, and you just wanna mix that around really well. So we're gonna scrape down our sides, put our lid on. Remember to seal it up tight, leave it somewhere semi-warm, and then we'll see you tomorrow for day 3. Well, your tomorrow. My right now. So this one has already grown and fallen. So the other one was still actively growing. This one, because it's a little more alive, has grown and is falling back down at this point. You can see how the bubbles are not big. They're all very small. Can you see that? So that's the difference between active growing sourdough. It was day 1 where the bubbles were nice and big and it was, you know, floofy and thick. This is what you consider discard. So you can see the bubbles are very small and it's very runny. So day 3 is the same as day 2. We're gonna add 2 tablespoons flour, a tablespoon to 2 tablespoons water, mix it well, and then let it sit. So 2 tablespoons flour, again starting with 1.5 just in case. That actually looks pretty good, 1.5. So again, you mix it really well, get that pancake batter consistency. And then we're gonna put our lid on and head straight into day 4. See, it's a pretty quick, easy process. Once you get it down, it's like, oh, it's not so bad. This one is the same as day 3. It has risen, fallen, and is now hungry. So day 4 is exciting because now we are going to feed for growth. So this is the point where if you are not starting in a large jar, you're probably going to want to transfer it. Day 4 is the day that I started baking with this. So if it was in this jar, it would have completely overflown. I'm going to move this to a larger jar. I also recommend that you measure how many grams your jar weighs by itself. That way, when you move to the feed and discard phase, you can just measure your jar. And so this is 434 grams. So when I discard, pouring out the sourdough, I'm gonna bring it down to 534 grams on the scale, because that means I have my jar and 100 grams of starter. So at this point, before you transfer or before you start the process, you know, put the thing down, flip it, and reverse it back to the beginning of this. And if you're starting in the same jar, you want to know what your starting jar weighs. Should have said that earlier. So I am going to transfer this. So pretty. Okay, because we're feeding for growth, we're going to add 2/3 cup flour. See, this is why I like the wide mouth jars. It's fine. All right, and then we're going to add 1/2 cup plus a tablespoon of water, and that tablespoon, reserve it, because if you don't need it, then you don't have to add it, but it's just generally you need about that much. And I realize that's a strange specific amount of water. You just stir. Again, today's the last day that we're gonna aim for that pancake batter consistency. So mix it really, really well. Mix. Scrape down your sides. And at this point, I like to add a rubber band to the jar. And this will just track our growth, because again, we're feeding for growth. So you're gonna seal this up. This is what happened last night. it was about to explode out of the jar. So I went ahead. You can bake if you're ready. If not, you can just, reserve it to cook with. You can make so many things with discard. All the discard recipes are my personal favorite. I mean, cinnamon rolls, garlic pull-apart bread, tortillas. There's so many things that you can use discard for, and they're delicious. So you can either reserve it in a different container in the fridge, or you can throw it out. I hate throwing out discard, but I do it. Everyone does it. You have to eventually, or you'll be swimming in sourdough. Don't put it down your drain. That's the only thing. Do not put it down your drain. It is essentially like glue when it dries. So you want to just toss it out, or, you can let it dry out on parchment as well. Spread it thin on some parchment paper, let it dry, crumple it up, and you have reserved starter that way too. So anyway, keep an eye on this. Hopefully it won't explode out of your jar, and then we'll be back for day 5. We reached day 5 in our sourdough journey, and if you're not already baking, this is where you go forward with the 1:1:1 ratio, or whatever ratio you choose to bake with. Like everything in sourdough, there are many options out there available. Find whatever works for you. What works great for me is 100 grams starter, 100 grams flour, and 100 grams water. So 1:1:1. I'm going to show you in this jar because I already used my other jar. But these WECK, W-E-C-K, are also great jars. I don't love how they seal for the beginning phases because it's annoying to me, but they're great down the road as you're going, because you could just set this on there and then it's not fully sealed, which is what you want when you are in the feed and discard phase. Unless you're putting it in the fridge, like I said, then you'll want it sealed. All right, so we're gonna pour in 100 grams. Couldn't tear my scale. I'm gonna add 100 grams water. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. Deep breaths, don't stress. As long as it's around 1:1:1, you'll be fine. So then I'm also gonna add 100 grams flour. It's pretty close. Okay. And then mix that up really well. And now you are at your feed and discard phase. So that's what you do from here on out every day. So if you are baking like bread with it, anything that needs a leavening agent, you're going to use it when it has peaked. So when it has at least doubled and is in its growing phase, that's when you will start your bread with it, or go ahead and discard if it's fallen already. That's pretty much it. That's what you'll do from here on out. So if you have any questions, anything you want to know more information about, anything that didn't quite make sense, troubleshooting, be sure to let me know. But again, I'll link a lot of my favorite resources down below. This will just sit and grow. I'll put my rubber band marker on it. You know what? Why don't we cut into this loaf as a goodbye? She looks good. Smells delicious. So good. Thank you again for watching. I hope you have great success in your sourdough journey and that it brings you as much joy as it does me. I think in the next video, we'll go ahead and make a loaf together, if that sounds like fun. Be sure to subscribe and like the video if it was helpful for you. It helps me push out this content to other people that could find it helpful. Come find me on Instagram at the same name, Agatha Carey Gardens. Yeah, thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time. Bye. any rings on. It's fine. Hi everyone. No, as long as your jar can seal all the way, doesn't matter. Well, and you want it to be big enough as well. That's what she said. That was so loud. Me, as well as with everything with sourdough,